Are you looking for tips and tricks to help you win all 8 of the new Season 2 levels? Well, I've got them all in this video, so let's get straight into it with Space Race. I've got timestamps in the description, so if there's a specific level you're looking for, then go ahead and check there. But for the start of Space Race, you will want to jump on these downward slopes to go a little bit faster. And then when you reach this section, try and stay on the hex tiles. If you go down, then it will be a bit slower. And once you finish, just stay on the side that you're on, because you want to go to the right or left. You don't want to go to a middle path on this one. And you'll see why in a moment. This is a little bit faster, so you go here and then you want to rush straight to this next platform. You don't want to wait around. And then you do this little maneuver to get straight into the pipe as quickly as possible. And on these conveyors there is a little bit of a trick. If you're near the edge, then what you want to do is either spam jump or try and move yourself to the center a little bit, because when you're moving between the conveyor belts, you will get launched in the conveyor direction a little bit, and you don't want to fall off because of that. Then you'll go through here, and what I would recommend personally is going up to this secret path at the top of the level by launching yourself up here, and then you get this little secret path that's normally faster. It's really up to personal preference which one you choose, but for me, I would recommend trying this one at least, and seeing what you prefer the most. But anyway, that's easy quals right there for Space Race. Now let's move on to Hyperdrive Heroes. Now at the start of the level, it's arguably the hardest part. You've just got to use a lot of patience in avoiding the thrusters. You don't want to get knocked off by them. Just be patient, the hoverboard moves slowly, you've got plenty of time. Oh, and here you can launch yourself up. I mean, you don't gain anything from it, but it's something you can do if you'd like. And you can see a hot dog join me, isn't that nice? Then once you're through that hellish section with the thrusters, everything does become a lot easier. You just gotta walk through those conveyors, simple enough. And if you want, you can just wait for the hoverboard to come and get you if you're not comfortable with those hex tiles for whatever reason. And here you can wait around, just make sure you're not too close to the edge, because obviously you don't want to get pushed off by another player. This applies to basically any part in the level also, just don't stand too close to any edges. And then here it's pretty easy, obviously just jump over things, but you do want to be careful of grabbers once again. Try and distance yourself from other players, because you never know if they might be evil little beings. And on this part, obviously go wherever you want. You should choose whichever path you're most comfortable with, because again, the hoverboard moves slowly. Whichever path you choose, you'll get to the end at the same time, so just choose whichever you're more comfortable with. Obviously hex tiles are riskier, and then once you're here, you just move through, and then obviously you'll have to do some more waiting. And at this ending part, you will want to use a little bit of patience. You don't want to get grabbed when you're jumping to the finishing tiles, because then obviously you'll lose if you get grabbed. You can see that Xenomorph was probably trying. And then if someone's in front of you in these tiles, just move to a different row. Obviously there's 3 rows, you can choose whichever row isn't taken. On to Frantic Factory right here. Hit yellow buttons, green ones don't do anything. I know this might seem obvious if you already know, but this is seriously important and a lot of people don't know. The yellow buttons score your points, the green buttons do nothing. If you're struggling to differentiate between the colours, whether you're colourblind or if it's just hard for you to tell, which is fair enough, they are close colours, then you could try using a colourblind filter on this level. I don't know how much that will help, or if your system you're using will even support it. If you're on PC, then it's definitely worth a try. I don't know if consoles have it or not. Not in 4Gs, by the way, like on your system there might be settings for that. Right, some actual gameplay tips. If you're playing in squads, then try and be in a different part of the map to your teammates. Obviously it will be easier to coordinate if you're playing with friends, but either way, all covering different parts of the map is a good idea, because obviously then you can cover more buttons. Basically, the main strategy in this level is just go for any yellow buttons when you're the closest being to them. There's not too much actual strategy other than that. Just pick a spot in the map that you're really good at, keep playing, practice, and get better, and that should work well for you. And one last little tip, if you're in a section like this with the buttons exiting an area on a conveyor, you can just walk into the middle of the conveyor to be the first to hit the button as long as it's yellow. It's a weird strategy, but a valid one nonetheless. Right, Cosmic Highway. This is a more basic level, so I can't give as many tips, but there definitely are still a few things you might want me to mention. So the most important thing here is definitely patience. There's a lot of waiting around in this level, where it's for bumpers to move out of way, ion thrusters to deactivate, or for a platform to get in range with you. And the drums, or lily pads, whatever you want to call them, in this level, they're pretty useful. If you dive onto them, they'll definitely help you in some situations. Speaking of diving, remember that jump diving between these platforms is your best friend on this level. With all the waiting for platforms to be in range, doing a well-timed jump dive will definitely help speed things up a bit. Just don't do it too early or again, you'll fall. And also something you can do in here is using these bumpers to jump and get a little speed boost if you jump on them at right angle. This is like a more pro strategy, so if you're just trying to qualify, you're not trying to do anything fancy or get first place about this, but if you're looking for speedruns or whatever else, you can try jumping on these bumpers. It's quite a cool thing. And one last tip that I forgot to record, you can actually grab and mantle onto a finish line. If you're just out of reach, you can dive and grab onto that, especially if you have auto grab enabled. Okay, so on Starchart, if you're not comfortable or confident with the round or you're struggling on it, you can just follow other players. That is completely fine, but the rest of these tips for this map are going to be assuming that you are doing things by yourself. Make sure the map screen at the end is in your view at all times and you're looking at it whenever you press a button, so you don't have to put any thought in, just push a button and you'll know where you're going next. And in case you didn't notice, the platform you're currently on will light up on the screen after you press the button, so you know exactly where you are. Have some patience with the asteroids, comets, whatever they are. You don't want to get knocked off by them. The checkpoints and respawning on this level is kinda unpredictable, and once you're near the end of the level, you might reach a dead end. I didn't really get any footage of this, but if you are willing to risk it, you can go ahead and just guess the path. If you think you know where it might be, but it's not being revealed on the map yet, you can do a well-timed jump dive onto it to see. If you're right, you can qualify and probably confuse everyone in the lobby. And if you're not right, oh well, you just respawn, not the end of the world. Right, on Pixel Painters, having competent teammates is definitely important. One bad random player and you are pretty much done. This is unfortunate, but it is true. And I definitely could recommend completing the difficult parts of the patterns before the easier parts, as that makes it easier for your teammates and also means it should be easier to spot your mistakes if we're in a less complicated part of the picture. And something to bear in mind, in the early stages of this season, most people suck at this round, so don't worry too much about racing the other players, but rather racing the timer. The round times out after 3 minutes, so that's how long you actually have to qualify most of the time. Just focus on that timer and you should be fine, because the other players normally won't qualify before the timer. But if you do want more practice with this level, there's a Pixel Painters trial show coming up soon called Pixel Palooza, which is 3 rounds of Pixel Painters, the last one being a final where anyone who qualifies can win 20 shards. Will be a pretty good show, especially if you're looking for more of that practice. It's coming on September 22nd to 25th. Credit to FG Muffins on Twitter and also FallGuysDB for the information about this show. So yeah, that practice is definitely the main part of this level. And on Hexa-Terrestrial, I don't have good footage of every single strategy I mentioned here, because the game just refused to give me Hexa-Terrestrial, alright? It kept giving me Tiptoe Finale, which we are going to go over tips in a second. But basically, being an evil being is the best strategy. I know it sounds weird, but just be evil, start grabbing everyone if you're confident with that. This will probably take some practice to get good at grabbing properly in this round, but it is a very powerful tool that I suggest you practice while the round is fresh and new and people aren't good at it yet. And make sure you are watching out for the walls closing in. In the early stages of the round, grabbing and the wall are the only real ways that people are going to get eliminated most of the time, as long as you're being careful. If this round is giving you the variant with the blast balls, which is a 50% chance of appearing, you want to avoid other players throwing them at you, obviously, but if you have the opportunity, pick up a blast ball, throw it at someone else. It'll destroy so many towers around them and also might launch them straight into the slime. So it's a very powerful thing to do if you get that variation. Once the wall is more closed in, this is where you can start trying to cut off the last couple players and really keep trying to grab them and pressure them into messing up or whatever, or again, if there's blast balls, they'll be even more deadly now. And after the wall is fully closed in, I don't have any footage of this at all, but there are some tiles that are left over right on the edges of the arena that you can still stand on if you get stuck. It is risky, but these tiles you can indeed stand on, and they will help if you're in a sticky situation. Last but not least, unless you're like me and hate Tiptoe Finale, then it is the least, but we've got Tiptoe Finale tips coming up. Similar to Pixel Painters, in this final you really want competent teammates if at all possible. Don't play with randoms. Obviously sometimes it isn't preventable, but yeah. So there are quite a few strategies in this final, but I am going to go over a very specific setup that I recommend. You can mess around with it however you'd like, do whatever your personal preference is. I'm just saying what I recommend and what I do. If I was in a full squad of 4 teammates, obviously I'm playing with random players in this footage. So I'd have one player pressing the button until it's finished wiping out and revealing the tiles in that part of the map, or if the button's finished serving its purpose, whatever you want to say, it's done. The other players left can just dive aimlessly at these tiles. When you're trying to reveal the tiles, do it as quickly as possible. You don't want to waste any time waiting for your teammates to catch up to you or any of that. As you can see, my randoms are wasting time and making me do all the work. They really don't understand the final. And also, while you're revealing tiles, I do recommend diving into the middle of 4 tiles, so then you can reveal up to 4 at once. And it takes a whole lot of trial and error to reach, but once you reach the ending, you want to keep going as quickly as possible. Jump onto these moving blue thingies, get to the top. At the edge of this platform, you can actually bounce quite high. So if the crown is high up, then you can use that to your advantage and grab it without waiting for it to come back down. But obviously, if it has come back down, just go up and grab it. I was just doing that for demonstration purposes. Thanks for watching this video, hope it helps. Here's some other videos you can watch if you're interested. Remember to like and subscribe for more content or whatever, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!